All right, let's do the rest of the sports because they're probably your headlines everywhere else, but not here. We had to check that box first. Let's do Kyrie first because I mentioned it before. Kyrie gets traded. He demands a trade because it seems like their extension talks fell apart. You probably understand why. Oh, my God.
Hasn't given much reason to the Nets to invest even more long-term towards him, so.
It's a tough investment. That's why the last time I was talking, whether I forget it was here or somewhere else, it just seemed like they weren't going to trade Kyrie. Like, if he sits out, he wants an extension. If he sits out the rest of this year, no one's going to give an extension. And he'd been like carrying the Nets recently. When that crew had been working, it was like maybe it's
gonna happen.
Maybe this is where they were trying to get to. He demands a trade. Everyone starts speculating where could it work. LeBron and the Lakers. Obviously, everyone thought about that one, reconnecting them. The Lakers have been looking for their connect the dot piece. Supposedly
the other way.
Supposedly it was in play.
They at least talked to him, had offers in hand.
There's some rumors that Brooklyn didn't do that because that's what Kyrie would have wanted. I don't know if they were that spiteful or if they weren't. Part of me loves if they were. I think Brooklyn still has goals to do some sort of big things this year, and they may do more as the deadline approaches. They got back Spencer Dinwiddie, hilarious, one out of Brooklyn. He's back. Dorian Finney-Smith, DFS. Put him in your DFS lineup. A first round and multiple second round picks. Brooklyn is going to be interesting to see what their next step is. KD's been out. Are they going to try to turn their assets into more assets? Or, some of my guys that are pretty nerdy about basketball are saying they have like a badass defensive lineup they can run out, and you have Kevin Durant. Is that enough of a formula? I don't know. I think the Celtics are really good this year.
I think they're still looking into one big move. They have what it takes to do one.
The Nets would love to do another flip to pair someone with KD. Because KD and an all defense team, that doesn't feel like the NBA formula these days. The fun side of this, so maybe Brooklyn's not done. There's been some LOL Brooklyn stuff in the office. Kyrie, Harden, KD hasn't panned out as expected.
As much as I enjoy that, on the whole, I think fine move, especially given if they really didn't want him on the Lakers as well, then they get something for him.
You got something out of Kyrie.
Addition by subtraction.
And that's
if they got anybody at Spencer Dinwiddie's level as a player that wasn't named Spencer Dinwiddie, I think they get laughed at a bit. But the Nets and Nets fans love Spencer Dinwiddie.
And maybe it's a little rebirth there. So it's going to be exciting to see where they're at the trade deadline, if they're involved in the next big move. And I think they're going to do something else. Dallas, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Like you said, okay. So when Kyrie's been playing this year, it's been electric, right? Or as of recently, it's been electric. Luka, if you're having best player in the NBA conversations, if you're having guy you want with the ball in his hand at the end of the game, it's, you can't have that discussion without Luka. I think what's interesting here, everyone's saying it, but, there's only one ball on the court. That's everyone's favorite NBA line when you're pairing up two ball-hogging guys. I think what's interesting here for me, and we've seen Jalen Brunson on our Knicks recently lighting it up, which, hey, I have to admit, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I was like, what? Not even at Brunson, more so at the Knicks. Even if Brunson was doing what he is doing now, where does that get the Knicks? That's a whole nother conversation that I don't think we need to get to. But the point is, Jalen Brunson, really good. When all those tweets were coming out from NBA guys like John Morant, and they were like, they don't know. Kind of didn't. And Brunson's been balling out, so we're happy for him. But Kyrie Irving, I still think, is a step above Jalen Brunson.
On the short list of guys that clearly are ahead of Brunson.
This is easily Luka's, strictly basketball, this is easily Luka's best teammate.
Yeah, gotta be.
So
that he's ever had, I think so.
I guess here's the thing, and this, let's be honest, and there was a quote, and now I'm stealing this a little bit from Big Cat, who stole this from an article, but they were saying like the potential is, the ceiling is fire, but also like the floor is lava. Like here's the one half of my brain, and this might sound obvious, this might not. Luka should still have the ball in his hands a ton, an absolute ton, and he will, and he always has. But when he does pass, and Luka's one of the best passers in the league, Kyrie is one of those options, which he hasn't been previously. So in a way, that is something. There's a lot of times when Luka's not going to have the ball in his hands, or if you need to rest him or take him off the court, run the whole thing through Kyrie. That's what he loves, right? So you've got that part of it. It's them playing together and at the end of games and making it work with the rest of the team, which obviously that's where the disaster energy kicks in, and everything off the court with Kyrie.
Yeah, I mean, on the Mavericks end, I think it's a worthwhile gamble. This team wasn't poised to go on a big run before this. We can argue if they are now, but at least they gave up a pick to try it out for half a year, figure out if they hate each other, if it doesn't work at all, and then need to make a decision in free agency. You can offer them the most. Kyrie has done this role where he's like the secondary playmaker with LeBron as like the LeBron, point guard.
Wouldn't you like him with Luka?
It wasn't too different with Durant. He gets the ball in his hands a little more with Durant than with Luka or LeBron, but he's done this, so it's worth seeing. If you're willing to take a chance on the other Kyrie-ness of it all.
Yeah, it's just, and that's where you have to land, because you have to land there, is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Between the Celtics, between the Nets, and everything else in between, you just have to assume this isn't going to work. And whether that's basketball-wise, whether it starts with basketball and heads into kookiness off the court. And the other thing is, in 3 months and 12 months, are we going to talk about Luka wanting a change of scenery? Like, if this was the Mavs' last card they could play, bringing in Kyrie to try to pair him up with Luka, which when you phrase it that way, doesn't that seem pretty dangerous?
The two guys they've tried to pair him with are Porzingis, who at the time of that trade, I think he's matured since then, but wasn't the most popular player in the league, and Kyrie, who as unpopular as it gets. And even when he's been not a problem for other reasons, that guy hasn't stayed very healthy.
No.
So,
and he's an undersized guard, which that's normally tough in the NBA, but he's been kind of the best at it when he does do it. So I don't know. I wonder if you're a Mavs fan, you got to be scared right now. And let's hope for the NBA, for Mavs fans, for good basketball, if these guys can figure it out for a couple months, it'd be really fun to watch. I mean, Luka is kind of the biggest team on his back guy in the NBA right now. And he got them to a conference finals.
He has. I don't remember if that was a year ago, 2 years ago, but
I mean, still,
yes.
Considering the roster he was working with,
if you can, to get through the regular season, if he can play 3 fewer minutes a game in the regular season this year,
Luka's so good, man.
In the playoffs, you can steal him 2 more minutes of rest.
Last year with Brunson.
Yeah.
So
Brunson was being that for him.
That's where everyone has gone as far away from the talent side of it as possible, because this kind of has to blow up. Dallas is playing kind of the 2%, hoping it lands on green on the roulette table, because it would be Luka's best teammate. And I mean, last year's Dallas Mavericks with 22-year-old Luka Doncic. Yeah, you're talking Luka. Dorian Finney-Smith started 80 out of 80. Brunson, 79 games. Kristaps played 34. THJ played 42. Dinwiddie, Bullock, Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, Frank Ntilikina. Remember how much we used to talk about him?
Still in my heart. It's in there.
So, yeah. And, I mean, now they're running it. Christian Wood, who's also has a reputation of having the ball.
Should be in the conversation for Doncic's best teammate.
Kind of, right? I mean, he's putting up...
I think he's a firm 3.
18 and 8 this year. Hey, it's one of those things. If everything comes together and work, and maybe it's the spring training in me right now that I'm saying that about every baseball team. I mean, they could have a top 3.
They get that right first round matchup. They can survive that pretty good and give any of these teams a run. You never know. Kyrie has won a championship. He's with LeBron.
And I guess that's the other thing that's coming out of me right now is there's a little bit of devil's advocate in me that's like hoping it kind of works. And like, dude, I'll admit, like, I'm not a Kyrie dude at this point. Like, what a nightmare.
Oh.
Tough to be. I mean,
used to be one of the most fun guys to watch play
offensive
basketball.
Shit. We've got quitting on team. Like, it's as bad as it gets. And I don't know. I guess there's a little bit of a sicko in me that would be like, man, if this somehow works.
What if he just wins?
Luka and Kyrie look good together. It's lining up to be a fun NBA, trade deadline leading up to the All-Star break. Supposedly the Suns were really in, and Chris Paul was on the table with picks and other guys. So interested to see what other stars maybe get the itch. Because how successful was that for Kyrie? It was like 3 days later. Ask and you shall receive.
And I do like for the Nets that they just got it taken care of and they have time to try out another move. You know?
And I wonder,
that part's
will Dallas extend Kyrie? Will Luka like any of this? It's going to be, as there's one more football game left and there's, 2 months of NBA regular season, a trade deadline. I think the NBA train will pick up. And I was a little excited by this news. This got me more into it. Knicks on ESPN twice this past week. Mm-hmm. Not that should be a big factor for me. It was just it was the Twitter conversation.
They were,
kind of both
you got sucked into them.
Sixers. Well, the Sixers-Knicks game became the full conversation because it got delayed by the fake Pro Bowl coverage. Or whatever the NFL is up to.
From this.
A lot of The Office was actually juiced up. I was ripping on it pretty hard, so I don't know. However you enjoyed your NFL Pro Bowl weekend.